Somewhere today, you will watch someone do something you cannot. Solve the problem faster. Remember the name you already forgot. Explain the idea you have been circling for years in a single clean sentence. And in that moment, a small, quiet word will form somewhere in the back of your mind. Talent, it is a kind word, a generous word. It hands the other person their gift and quietly hands you your excuse. Because if they were simply born with it, then you were simply born without it. And there is nothing left to do but admire them from a distance. But what if that word has been lying to you your whole life? Here is the uncomfortable thing about the word talent. We reach for it most when we do not want to look too closely. We call it talent because talent lets us off the hook for everything we never trained. The hours they spent, you did not see. The thousands of quiet repetitions happened off camera. You arrived at the finished mind and called it a miracle, because a miracle asks nothing of you. So the real question is not whether some people are smarter than others. The real question is this: what are they actually doing that you are not? For most of the last century, the answer seemed settled. Intelligence was a number. You were born with it, it was measured, and it sat there for life like the color of your eyes. And there is a grain of truth in that. Your raw mental horsepower is partly inherited, and a single IQ score in adulthood is fairly stable. Be careful with anyone who promises to raise it 30 points with a phone game. That is a myth, and myths sell. But that grain of truth got twisted into something far more convenient. Fixed. And fixed turned out to be wrong, because the brain is not a stone tablet you were handed at birth. It is closer to a living landscape, constantly rewriting its own roads based on where you actually walk. Scientists have a word for this: plasticity, and the proof is not in a lab abstraction. It is sitting inside the skulls of London taxi drivers. To earn their license, London cabbies memorize a tangle of 25,000 streets. It takes years. And when the neuroscientist Eleanor Maguire scanned their brains, she found something that should stop you cold. The part of the brain that handles spatial memory, the hippocampus, was physically larger in the drivers. Not because they were born that way, because they trained it. The mind had reshaped its own matter around what it was repeatedly asked to do. Sit with that for a moment. Effort did not just teach them facts. Effort changed the organ itself. And it does not stop with taxi drivers. Musicians who train their fingers grow the brain regions that control them. People who learn to juggle in a matter of weeks show measurable changes in the gray matter tied to motion and sight. The pattern repeats everywhere scientists look. Demand something of the brain again and again, and it builds the hardware to meet the demand. So if the brain rebuilds itself around what you repeat, the next question becomes almost unbearable. What have you been repeating? Think back to the first time someone told you what you were not. Maybe you were a child, maybe a teacher sighed, or a test came back red, and a sentence landed that you have carried ever since. You are just not a math person. You are not creative. You do not have the memory for this. It felt like a diagnosis. It was actually a prophecy. Because the moment you believed it, you stopped walking toward that thing, and the road you stopped walking grew over. You did not discover a limit that day. You planted one. How many of your limits are real, and how many are simply roads you were told not to take? This is where the comforting story about geniuses falls apart. Because when you actually study them, the people we call brilliant are rarely doing more of what you do. They are doing something different. The psychologist Anders Ericsson spent his career studying world-class performers, and what he found was not magic. It was a method. He called it deliberate practice, not mindless repetition, not comfortable repetition. Targeted, effortful, slightly painful work aimed precisely at the edge of what you cannot yet do. Most people practice the part they are already good at. It feels nice. It changes nothing. They play the songs they have mastered and avoid the passage that breaks their fingers, then wonder why a decade of practice left them in the same place. The trained mind hunts for the part that hurts. But there is something underneath even that, a hidden engine driving the whole machine, and it is not raw intelligence at all. Look closely at anyone who has rebuilt their own mind, and you will find the same quiet ability running underneath everything. Control over their own attention. This is the heart of it. Intelligence was never the real advantage. Control over your attention was. Think about what genius actually requires. To stay with one hard problem long after it stops being fun. To not flinch toward your phone the instant the difficulty rises. To hold a single thread of thought steady while the whole world offers you 1,000 easier ones. That is not a gift of the brilliant. That is a skill, and like every skill, it grows in whoever trains it and withers in whoever does not. And here is the quiet secret of how attention is actually built. It is not built by never being distracted. No one wins that fight. It is built in the single moment after you notice you have drifted, when you drag your focus back to the hard thing one more time. That return is the repetition. That is the rep. Every time you notice the pull towards something easier and choose the harder thing anyway, you lay down another inch of road. The trained mind is not one that never wanders. It is one that has practiced coming back 10,000 times. So ask yourself an honest question. When something gets hard, where does your attention go? For most people, the answer is somewhere else. The mind, untrained, runs from difficulty the way a hand runs from a flame. And every time it runs, it gets a little better at running. You are training constantly. The only question is what you are training. The person scrolling for 3 hours is not lazy. They are an elite athlete of distraction, rebuilding their brain with every swipe to crave the next small hit and flee the next hard thought. And this is what makes our moments so strange. For the first time in history, you live inside an environment engineered by some of the smartest people alive to capture the exact attention that builds a mind. Every feed, every notification, every autoplay is a small machine designed to win the fight for your focus. Your ancestors had to survive predators. You have to survive a billion-dollar industry built to make staying with a hard thought feel almost impossible. The trained mind is no longer the default. It has become an act of quiet rebellion. The brain never stops adapting. It does not care whether you grow or shrink. It only obeys what you repeat. This is why the fixed mindset is so quietly dangerous. The psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades showing that people who believe their ability is fixed tend to avoid the very challenges that would grow it. Why struggle if struggle only exposes a limit you cannot change? So they retreat to what they already know. And in retreating, they make the cage real. The belief that you cannot grow becomes the reason you do not. And here's the cruel symmetry. The same is true in reverse. The person who believes their mind can be built goes toward the hard thing. They fail, and the failure teaches. They strain, and the straining reshapes. Slowly, invisibly, they become the very thing you will one day call talented. And you will say that quiet word again, talent, never knowing you watched it being constructed the whole time. So what does it actually mean to train a mind? It does not mean you can become anything. Be honest about that. There are real differences between people, and raw speed has a ceiling that varies. The fixed story was not entirely false. It was just aimed at the wrong target. Because the most powerful parts of your mind are not your raw speed at all. They are the things that compound. What you know, what you can hold in working memory, how long you can stay, how willing you are to be confused without fleeing. Psychologists separate intelligence into two kinds. Fluid, your raw problem-solving speed, which is harder to move, and crystallized, the vast library of knowledge and skill you build over a lifetime, which only grows. Geniuses are not people who maxed out the part you cannot change. They are people who relentlessly built the part you can. They simply refuse to call it fixed. And this is the part that should keep you up tonight. Not because it is frightening, but because it is yours. Every hour you have ever spent has been training something. The focus you do or do not have right now was not handed to you. It was built, repetition by repetition, by a younger version of you who did not even know they were in training. And the version of you that exists a year from now is being built right now by what you choose to repeat today. That is the weight hidden inside good news. If the mind were truly fixed, you would be free. There would be nothing to do, nothing to answer for, only a number you were dealt at birth. But the mind is not fixed, which means the distance between you and the people you call geniuses is not a wall. It is a road, a long, unglamorous, often painful road paved with the exact hard things your attention keeps trying to flee. Most people will never walk it, not because they cannot, because believing they cannot is so much more comfortable than beginning. So tomorrow when you watch someone do the thing you cannot, that quiet word will rise again. Talent. But now you know what it really means. It is not a description of them. It is a decision about you. It is the moment you choose, one more time, to admire from a distance instead of stepping onto the road. The gift was never theirs to be born with. It was always yours to build.